Hello. In this video, I will do some SAT practice exercise involving nonlinear functions medium mode. So let's begin. So we are doing nonlinear functions. So in the first question, we're given f of x equals x squared, parentheses x minus 35 to the third times x plus 84 to the third. In the xy coordinates, there are exactly how many x-intercepts for the graph of the given function. So um, it's going to be 3. So how do I know this? They're not asking you, yeah, they're asking you how many x-intercepts. They're not talking about multiplicity. So, I mean, just even if you want to do it without the calculator, you would just set y to 0, right? And then you would see that if you set each equation to 0, you would see that you would get x squared equals 0. I mean, you would get 3 solutions. But they're not asking you what the actual solution is. They're only asking you how many x-intercepts there's. There's 3. Right? Even though this is a power two, they're not asking you the multiplicity, they're asking you how many times it hits the x-axis, 3 times. And you technically can put this in Desmo. So let me, because this is the new digital SAT. So if I put that in Desmo, how would you do it? The Desmos, you would say y equals x squared parentheses x minus 35. And then if you kind of zoom in a bit, yeah, it's real. I don't think this Desmo. Okay, so yeah, I don't think we could have put this in Desmo because the x-intercepts are kind of fairly large. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's 2, but because yeah, so because this is the x-intercepts are really large, it's kind of hard to see. But if you just do it by hand, you'll see if you set y to 0, solve for x, you're going to get 3 different x-intercepts. Question 2, the function f is given by the given function equation. For what value of x does f of x has a minimum? So this one you could put in Desmo, and I'll show you both ways. You can put it in Desmo and you can do it by algebra. So here, I'll show you. So they're asking you, in question 2, for what value of x does f of x reach its minimum? So what they're really asking you is find the x value of the vertex. That's all they're asking. So yes, you can put this in Desmo and you get let me zoom out. This should work. Okay, see, as I zoom out, they're not asking for the x-intercept. They're looking for the vertex. So it's either the vertex is the whole, it's the highest or the lowest point, and the vertex is this point -2, -64. They're only asking for the x value of the vertex, not the y value. So as you can see, the answer is -2. Now, if you want to do it in the algebra way, how would you find the x value of the vertex? So the algebra way, you would have to FOIL this out. So x times x is x squared, x times 10 is 10x, -6 times x is -6x, and then -6 times 10 is -60, right? And then if you kind of simplify that, that's going to be x squared. What's 10x minus 6x? 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 4x. And then minus 60. For what values of x is at, so then you were asking for the x value of the vertex. So how do you find the x value of the vertex? Well, you can use this equation, x equals opposite of b over 2a. And then you would figure out your a and your b. So your a is 1, your b is 4, and your c is -60, right? So what is the opposite of b, which is -4 over 2 times a, which is 1, which is -4 over 2, which is -2. Okay, so it is ours. Okay, question 3 says two quadratic functions are defined as f of x equals ax squared and g of x equals bx squared, where a is greater than 0, where a is positive, and b is less than 0, where b is negative. How many values of x can exist such that f of x equals g of x? So what I would do, you can't really put that, well, you could put this in decimal, but what I would do is make up a letter. So let's pretend let a equals 1. And then let's pretend, because a has to be greater than 0, and then let's pretend b is negative, so let's say b is -1. So what that means is our f of x, if a is 1, our f of x is going to be 1x squared, or really x squared. And then my g of x, if my b is negative, would be -1x squared. This you know how to graph, right? You know how to graph x squared, and you know how to graph negative x squared. It would look something like this, right? F of x equals x squared is a positive concave up like this. And then g of x equals -x squared looks concave down like this. Okay. Um, so they're asking you how many, when they say how many values of x can exist, it's basically how many times does this intercept, and looks like it can intercept only once. So it will be letter B. Question 4, the function f of x equals 2 parentheses 4 raised to the 2x is defined for all values of x if g of x equals f of x plus 1, and what is the value of g of x? So if g of x equals to this, let's first find this. Let's find f of x plus 1. That's easy because they kind of give you the f of x function, which is 2 parentheses 4. And then all you got to do is replace x, because x plus 1 is actually an input, right? It's an x value. So all you got to do is replace x with, wherever you see an x, replace it with x plus 1. So it's going to be 2 times x plus 1. That's 2 parentheses 4, and then if you boil this out, this is going to be 2x plus 2. And then we said that this is the same thing as g of x, so our final answer is going to be 2 parentheses 4 raised to the 2x plus 2. Letter D. Question 5, the function f of x is an exponential function of the form f of x equals a times b raised to the x, where a and b are positive, and f of 2 equals 100, and f of 4 equals 2500. What is the value b? So they want you to find this exponential function, right? This is an exponential. It's in the form of y equals a times b raised to the x. And they give you two coordinates, actually. F of 2 equals 100 is a coordinate, right? That could be expressed as 2 comma 100. And then f of 4 of 2500 can also be expressed as 4 comma 2500. Now what we're going to do is use these points to figure out our equation or figure out our a and our b. So 2, let's look at this 2 comma 100. 2 is like your x, 100 is like your y. So plug that back in here. So it's 100 equals AB, and then replace x with 2. And then what should I do here? What I want to do is solve for A. So to solve, you'll see why. To solve for A, I got to get rid of this b squared. So to do so, we're going to divide both sides by b squared, right? So A is going to equal to 100 over b squared. Now do the same thing with this one. So your x, this is your y. Replace my y with 2500, and then it's a times b, and then my x is 4. And then my a is 100 over b squared, so that's 100 over b squared times b4. And then if you kind of simplify this, let's see, this is 100 b4 over b2 plus 2500 plus 2500. And then what's b4 over b2? You're dividing, so you subtract the power, so that's going to be 4 minus 6, 2. And then continue solving for b, so then I will get rid of this 100 by dividing both sides by 100. You get 25 equals b squared, and then solve for b, so you're going to take the square root, and you get square root of 25, which is 5. Okay, so yeah, so your answer is b is 5. They don't want the equation, they just want the b value. Question 6, the function h is defined by this. H of t equals at squared minus 3t plus 7. And then h of negative 2 equals negative 3. What is the value of h of 2? So what we got to do first is figure out the equation for h of t. And they give you these points, right? Negative 2, negative 3. And then if I plug that in, I'll somehow figure my a value. So let's do that. So h of t is really like your y. So it's going to be negative 3 equals a, and then my t is like your x, so it's going to be negative 2 squared minus 3, and then my t or my x is negative 2 plus 7. Put it all together, negative 2 squared is 4a, negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6 plus 7. And then what's 6 plus 7? It is 13. And then what we'll do is we got to solve for a, so I'm going to subtract 13 from both sides. -3, -13 is 4, 5, -16. Solve for a. -16 divided by 4 is -4. So my final, so my h of t is going to be -4 t squared minus 3t plus 7. And then plug in h of 2. Replace u with 2. And when we put it all together, it should get spit out -15. Okay, I guess we can end in 4. It looked like we got it. Yeah, let me double check. Yeah, we got it all right. Okay. Okay, let's do the second part of the answer. So I'm going to restart. We'll start with question 1. The height of a rock being thrown off a cliff can be modeled by the function h of t equals -9.8 t squared plus 49t plus 58.8, where t is the number of seconds that passes after the rock is thrown. After how many seconds will the rock hit the ground? So basically they're asking for the x-intercept, right? Because after how many seconds will the rock hit the ground? So yeah, they're asking for the x-intercept. So how do you find the x-intercept? You set y to 0 and solve for t. And then you solve for t. So what I could do next is I mean you could put this Desmos and then find where it touches the x-intercept. You can also get rid of the -9.8 by dividing everything by -9.8. 0 equals t squared. And then 49 divided by -9.8 is -5t. And then 58.8 divided by -9.8 is -6. We factor this out. What two numbers multiply -6 and one added gives you -5? That is 6 and 1, right? And then -6 and +5. But, and then wait, that's not your answer. When you actually solve for t, you're going to get +6 and -1. Now, you can't go back in time, right? You can't have a negative second. So our only answer is +6 seconds. Okay. Question 2. Given the function f of x equals 3x squared minus 4x, which of the following is equal to f of 2 of x? So it's basically an input output thing. 2x is your input, and then we got to figure out the output, basically whatever it spits out. So where v seen x, just replace it with 2x. So what is 2x squared? That is going to be 4x squared times it by 3, and then negative 4 times 2x. So 3 times 4x is 12x squared minus 8x, and that's your answer. So your final answer shall be B. Question 3. That function f of x is a quadratic function such that f of x plus 5 equals 0 yields exactly one real solution. Which of the following could be f of x? So be careful with this one. They want to know what the f of x is, but you also have this plus 5 at the very end. So with the choices, these are all f of x. This is not the entire thing. So this is before they added the 5, right? But they say this graph exactly yields one real solution. Basically, when they say that, well, first off, if you look at all the choices, it's definitely quadratic. And how do you know if you have a one solution in quadratic? Quadratic. You can use the what's called the discriminant rule, right? So what is the rule for the discriminant rule in order to have one's x-intercept? Is this b squared minus 4ac, and then that should all equal to 0. Okay. So what you're going to do is Uh, I mean, you could test each one, right? So if I test the first one, okay, so be careful. It's f of x plus 5. So this whole thing is f of x. So it's going to be written as x squared plus 10x plus 20 plus 5. And then that gives you x squared plus 10x. And then 20 plus 5 is 25. Okay. And then how do you know? So does this really give you one solution? So you use this rule b squared minus 4ac. So my a is 1, my b is 10, my c is 25. And then put it in this rule and let's see if it gives you 0. So b is 10 squared minus 4 times a is 1, c is 25. So 10 squared is 100 minus 4 times 1 is 25. What's negative 4 times 25 is 100. And that definitely gives you 0, so 0 equals 0. So that means that this is the correct answer. Okay, question 4. The population of shellfish along the Kirby coast is 2,000. In the year 2000 is 3,000. After 1 year, the population of shellfish increased to 3,600, or I think that's the year 2001. If it is predicted that the population will increase at an exponential rate, which of the following function will predict the population of shellfish, S of t, along the Kirby Coast T years after 2000. So they specifically said that in this problem, it is an exponential function, right? So what is the equation of an exponential function? It's this, y equals a times b raised to the x. And they give us two coordinates, believe it or not. When the year 2000, it's 3000. So I know my x coordinate is the year, and then my y coordinate is the amount of shellfish, right? So that means our coordinate for 2000 is going to be, now this is your starting point, so you don't really have to put the 2000 comma 3000. That's really 0 comma 3000 because that's your starting point. So don't make the mistake of replacing x with 2000. And then the other information says after 1 year, the population increased to 3,600. 3,600. So what that means is you don't have to say 2001, comma 3,600. It's actually 1, comma 3,600. Okay. So yes, yeah. So these are our coordinates. Now you don't have to plug in this point in order to figure your A. I automatically know that your A value is your initial value. So your A is actually just 3,000. So it's going to be 3,000 times b raised to the x. Now, we got to find our b by plugging this point. So this is your x, this is your y. So I'm going to replace my y with 3,600. And then I'm going to replace my x with 1. So it's going to be 3,000 b. And then what's wait? I don't know what b is, but my x is 1. So when I solve for b, I'm going to divide this by 1,000. So what's 3,600 divided by 3,000? 1.2. Okay. So they want the exact equation. So we found our A, which is what? 3,000. So it's going to be 3,000. And we found our B, which is 1.2 raised to the T. That would be letter B. Question 5, the function g of x is defined for all values of x. What is the maximum value of the function g of x? So what are they really asking? They are asking you, what is the y value of the vertex? Now, the good news is because this is the digital SAT, you can use the Desmo graphing calculator. So all you got to do is if you put this in the graphing calculator, what will you see? You get, let me put it in. So they're asking you for the y value of the vertex. They're not asking for the x-intercept, the y value of the vertex, which is this, 2,49. As you can see, the y value of the vertex is 49. Okay, so that's how you do it using the Desmos. And how would you do it using like algebra? So what you would do first is what I would do first is find the x. So I would FOIL it out first. So if you FOIL this out, this is going to be I'll save you time. When you FOIL this out, it's going to give you negative x squared plus 4x plus 45. And then what you're going to do next is find the x value of the vertex. So your x is going to be opposite b over 2a. And then figure out my a, b, and c. So my a is -1, my b is 4, and my c is 45. So my b is -4, right? Well, opposite of b. Well, my b is +4, but it's opposite of that. And then it's 2 times a, which is -1. So that's -4. And then 2 times -1 is -2. -4 and -2 is +2. Now to find the y value of vertex, you simply plug in this back into this. and you get 49. Okay. Okay. I already know that I think we got it all right. Okay. Oh wait, never. I gotta end in score. So as you can see, we got it. Yep, we got it all right. Okay. So now let's just do, there's like a last part. Ah, come on. Yeah, this one. Okay, so this is still nonlinear function and still part of medium. Medium problems. I mean, medium hard, like, yeah. Okay, question one. In the quadratic function, g of negative 2 equals 40, g of 0 equals 7.5, g of 2 equals negative 17. Which equation defines g? So what we could do is, unfortunately, you can't, I wouldn't know how to put this in Desmos. There probably is a way where you just, because these are all coordinates, right? And somehow I'll give you the equation, but I'm not familiar with that. So I'm going to show you the algebraic way. Algebraic way. So g of negative 2 equals 40, that is a coordinate of negative 2 comma 40. G of 0 equals 75, that's a coordinate of 0 comma 7.5. And then g of 2 equals negative 17, that's a coordinate of 2 comma negative 17. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this point. I think it's easier because there's a 0. So I'm going to put it in the equation of this quadratic. So what is the equation of quadratic? It is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, right? So I'm going to replace my x and I'm going to replace my y with 7.5. And then I'm going to replace my x with 0. And you get c equals 7.5. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have y equals ax squared plus bx, and then replace my c with 7.5. So unfortunately, we can't like exclude anyone because they all have a 7.5. So now what we're going to do is use another point somehow and figure out our A and B. I think we're going to have to do elimination. So what would be my other point? I'm going to use the point, I'll use the point the negative 2 comma 40. Let's see if that helps out. Okay, so I'm going to replace my y with 40, replace my x with negative 2, replace my x with negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4a. Negative 2 times b is negative 2b plus 7.5. And then what I'm going to do is like subtract 7.5. And then 40 minus 77.5 is 32.5. Okay, and then what I'm going to do next is plug in this other point. Let's see if that helps. So my y is going to be negative 17, and my x is going to be 2. Okay, let's see if this helps. Negative 2 squared is 4a. B times 2 is 2b plus 7.5. And then I gotta get, yeah, let's move this 7.5 to the left by subtracting 7.5. So what's negative 17 and negative 7.5? That is negative 24.5. So I'm going to put it here. And the good news is, as you can see, the b's cancels immediately if you just add them up vertically. So if you continue with adding them up, 4a plus 4a is 8a. And then 32.5 minus 24 pi is 8. Solve for a, so divide this by a, divide this by 8, and you get a equals 1. Okay, do I have everything? I have my a, don't have my b. So how do I find my b? I could just plug in my a back into either this equation or this one. It doesn't really matter. So if I plug it in the first one, you get 32.5 equals to 4 times a, or 4 times 1 minus 2b. So that's going to be 4 minus 2b, 32.5. And then when you solve for a, you're going to get 1. Okay. So our a is 1, my b, whoops, no, sorry. We were solving for b, and when you solve for b, you're going to get negative 14.25. Okay. So my a is 1, my b is negative 14.5, and my c is 7.5. So it's going to be y equals a is 1, so that's 1x squared. My b is negative 14.25x, and my c is 7.5. Looks like it's b. Yes, it's b. Question 2, the quadratic function h of x equals a parentheses 2x plus 3 times x minus 3 has a minimum of negative 60.75. What is the value of a? So this one, I really couldn't put it in Desmo. So you're going to have to do a little bit of algebra. So what they're saying is you have a minimum of negative 60.75. So you have a minimum of negative 60.75. So what we got to do is find the x-intercept first to find the x value of the vertex, right? So first I'm going to find the x-intercept. Okay, so to find the x-intercept, you set y to 0 and somehow solve for x, right? Now, don't worry about this a. You can easily get rid of this a by dividing both sides by a. That's 0 equals to 2x plus 3 times x minus 3, right? And when you actually solve for x, you're going to get positive 3 and negative 3/2, right? Then what I'm going to do is find the halfway point. How do you find the halfway point? All you got to do is take the average of your two x-intercepts. So my x-intercepts were negative 3/2, so that's the same thing as negative 1.5 plus 3 all over 2, and I get 0.75. So what that means is we found the x value of the vertex, which is 0.75, and we actually found the y value of the vertex, which is given negative 60.75. So they want to find the a, so what we could do is plug in, these are coordinates, right? So you can replace my h of x with negative 60.75. And then I don't know what my y is, and then I can replace my x with, what was it? 0.75. And when you do all the algebra, you're going to get a equals 6. So C. Okay, so that was kind of tricky. Okay, question 3. For the quadratic function k of x, we have k of 4 equals 9.3, k of 5 equals negative 7.1, and k of 6 equals negative 4.6. Which of the following is true about k of x? So I'm not going to spend time trying to find the coordinate because it's kind of hard to find the coordinates because we don't have a x coordinate of 0. So what I will do is kind of graph it and just go from there. So k of 4 equals 9.3 is a coordinate of 4 comma 9.3. And then k of 5 equals negative 7.4 is a coordinate of 5 comma negative 7.1. And then k of 6 equals negative 6.4 is 6 comma negative 4.6. So I'm gonna kind of graph it on the Cartesian plane. Here x, here's your y. So what's my highest y value is like 9, so I'm gonna go 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then my x values are like 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go 7. So if I plot 4 comma 9.3, that would be here's 2. 9.3 is like way up here. 5 comma negative 7.1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, negative 8. So 5 comma negative 7.1 would be like right about here. And then 6 comma negative 4, 5, 6. Negative 4.6 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, right about there. So it would look something like this. So is A true? The vertex of k of x is between 4 and 5. No, here's the vertex, right? Somewhere around here. Uh, it, no, yeah, I don't think so. The vertex of k of x is between 4 and 5. It should be, no. The solution of k of x is between 4 and 5. So when they say solution, they mean a coordinate or an x-intercept, right? Or a core point. So here's 4, here's 5. Yes, that sounds true. A solution is between 4 and 5. So I'm going to say yes, letter B. Question 4. A triangle has a base that is 6 feet longer than twice the height. The function A models the area of the triangle in square feet, where h is the height of the triangle, which equation defines the function A of h. So imagine you have this triangle. It didn't say what kind of triangle, so I can make a right triangle because it didn't specify what triangle, right? Here we have a right triangle, and then they're saying that the base is 6 feet longer than twice the height. So how do I write that? 6 feet longer than twice the height is the same thing as plus 6 times 2h, right? The function a models the area of a triangle, so we don't know the height, so we'll call it h. So what is the area of a triangle? It is base times height over 2. So my base is 2h plus 6, and then my h is h, all over 2. And when you do clean that up, 2h times h is 2h squared. 6 times h is 6h all over 2. And when you divide everything by 2, you get h squared, and then 6 divided by 2 is 3h. Now, there's one more thing you can do because you don't see our answer. You can factor out an h. That's going to be h plus 3. And that's it. There you go. Okay, question 5. The given equation has exactly one solution. What is the value of c? So when they say one solution, so we know this is a quadratic, right? We have 36x squared plus 60x plus c. And when they say one solution, you can use the discriminant rule. So what is the rule for the discriminant rule when you have one solution? It is this. It's b squared minus 4ac equals to 0, right? And let's figure out our a, b, and c. So my a is 36, my b is 60, and my c, I don't know what my c is, so I'll just say c. So if you put it back here, it's going to be 60 squared minus 4 times a, which is 36, and then my c is c equals to 0. So what's 60 squared? 3600. What's negative 4 times 36 times c? That's negative 144c equals to 0. And then if you solve for c, so you're going to subtract 3600. Well, it's going to be negative 144c. It's negative 3600. And then if I divide this by negative 144, I get c equals 25. Okay, there you go. Okay, so that was the last question on this, on the nonlinear function median. So yeah, if you want to say the score, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, we got it all right. Okay, I guess we can stop here.